Well, thank you all for coming out this morning, especially those that made it here on time. If you're a student, I know this is not always your favorite thing to do, so thank you all for arriving. It's my privilege this morning to be able to introduce Dr. Stephen Ender, and he's going to do the formal welcome for all of you. He arrived at GRCC actually at the same time as I did in 2009. He is the 9th president of GRCC. I kind of figure we had this kind of bond since we started at the same time. Among his many honors and achievements, in 2002, Dr. Ender was named to the National Advisory Board for helping teens succeed as a college transition program. He received the Pennsylvania Association for Developmental Educators Award for research and publication. And in my opinion, we are most thankful for Dr. Ender and his strong support of our USGBC student group. He was instrumental in helping us to get funding for our trip to Washington, D.C. That we did earlier this year, as well as, of course, supporting the conference today. So we are very, very thankful for all his support of our student organization. So thank you for coming this morning, Dr. Ender, and come on up.
And good morning, and it's my pleasure to be here. And I wanted to say to the students, there's not many of us that really like being anywhere at 8:30 on Saturday morning. At the same time, we're here, and we're here because we believe in the work that you are doing and that this workshop will focus on. So on behalf of Grand Rapids Community College and our board, faculty, and students, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the Midwest Sustainability Conference. I'd like to thank David and Charlotte. They've been instrumental in bringing the conference to campus, along with our U.S. Green Building Council student group and the West Michigan chapter of U.S. Green Building Council for organizing this event. I mean, this is hard work, folks. If you've ever been involved in trying to bring people in, figure out all the logistics, put a program together, find speakers, you don't do that overnight. And I'm sure that these two folks right here, along with their students, have fretted about this a bit in the last 6 months or so. Assembled here are experts who will help us all explore new avenues in green building and living. I know those attending are excited to hear those ideas and to share their own knowledge. I am delighted that the students are attending both from GRCC and other institutions. These are wonderful opportunities for networking. You may develop friendships and relationships here today that will carry you on through your careers, and that's the power of these conferences at the end of the day. I have some other things here, but I really want to focus on one thing this morning that came up. I was up early. I was up pretty early, actually, and I was sitting in the living room drinking a cup of coffee, looking out the window. And there's a hedgerow outside the porch, and I see this bird jump out into the yard. It's a big bird, So I keep watching, and there he is again. It was a robin. Well, I always delight in seeing my first robin of the season. I just think that's wonderful. But then I thought, this is February the 20th, and I'm seeing a robin in Michigan. And then I thought about this conference today, quite frankly. Global warming is real. And I know El Nino has some effect on that robin being in my front yard this morning. But as you advance in your studies, I'm talking to students now, in your careers, I think this whole business of sustainability, the carbon we're putting into the atmosphere, this is really real. And I worry about my grandchildren's grandchildren. And I ask you all to worry about that issue as you advance in your profession and your careers. I loved seeing that little robin, but I really wish he'd stayed way back in the woods where he belongs until the middle of March or a little bit later. You guys have a wonderful conference. Enjoy each other, network, take advantage of the opportunity you have here today. And thanks so much for being at Grand Rapids Community College. Have a great conference. Thank you.
Our first presentation, our opening presenter this morning, is Sherry Holman. She is Executive Director of the USGBC West Michigan chapter. Sherry is a LEED accredited professional. She has extensive experience and a genuine passion for energy and water conservation. Other areas of interest include indoor environmental air quality, renewables, access to healthy food, and all things related to educating and promoting a healthy built environment. Ms. Holman is a past chair of USGBC West Michigan Board of Directors after serving as treasurer for 2 years. In early 2002, Sherry founded the LEED for Existing Building Advocacy Group. She has served as the subject matter expert for the Green Building Certification Institute, or GBCI, lead for EB operations and maintenance test development in 2008, and the commercial reviewer exam test development in 2009. In 2010-2011, Sherry served as a Green Build conference session reviewer. Sherry will be talking about the progressive nature of Grand Rapids when it comes to sustainability. So please join me in welcoming Sherry.
So I got a long history with the USGBC. I got to tell you, it really was always my passion and my dream to work for the U.S. Green Building Council. So I took over as the executive director in late 2014. And we've been working on a lot of exciting stuff since then. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what we have going on in Grand Rapids. I know many of you are from Michigan. Some of the things we work on are not just here in Grand Rapids, but throughout the state. So hopefully when you go on to your careers, you'll encourage your employers to get involved in some of our programs. So we have a mission to transform the way buildings and communities are designed, built, and operated that improves the quality of life in West Michigan. Really a spinoff from the national. We just made it a little bit simpler. And just, what are we working on here in Grand Rapids and throughout the state? Obviously, we're advocating for LEED buildings in West Michigan. And we're advocating on green infrastructure, sustainability, and resiliency. The ways that we do that are through programs, including the Michigan Battle of the Buildings. How many of you have heard of the Michigan Battle of the Buildings? Okay, cool. I love it when people already know a little bit about that program that's going on. And I'll talk about it in a little bit more detail as we get into this. The Grand Rapids 2030 District. Have you guys heard of the 2030 districts? Cool. One of our newer ones, which we're still kind of getting off the ground, is the Green Health Collaborative. There we're trying to connect human health to the building, which obviously LEED has been doing for a really long time. But I think that people are finally ready to listen. So we've been doing some events around Green Health Collaborative, but that is a rather new program for us, and we're still kind of trying to get speakers is one of our challenges with that, because so few people are actually working in this arena. And then, of course, green schools. So we just had a Grand Rapids Public School Hackathon about a week and a half ago. That was really cool. It was the first time we'd done anything like that. We got about 45, 50 people together. Grand Rapids Public Schools recently received a bond, or has been approved for a bond through their generous taxpayers. And they've got several $1 million to work with. They're going to be improving some schools at GRPS. And so we all got together and just kind of thought about that. Throughout some ideas, there was a lot of architects, engineers, thinking about what GRPS might look like in the future. The way it was run, it was facilitated by a facilitator at Consumers Energy. And it was really kind of cool because they sat down first and started thinking 5 years in the future, or 500 years in the future. What would GRPS look like in 500 years in the future? And some of the ideas that they were coming up with was really, really neat. So things like, instead of security at the door, maybe there would be a force field over the top of the school, and everybody as they entered and left, we would just automatically know because they maybe wore some sort of bracelet. School was open 24/7. Students could come and go and learn at the times that was best for them. So that's just one of them that was thrown out there. But it was really fun, and it really challenged people to dig deep and get innovative. So it was an 8-hour session, kind of started with, these surface ideas, and by the time you get through so many ideas, it kind of forces you to dig deep for more ideas, right? And they say that's when innovation really happens, is when you're exhausted everything that's surface and that's easy. So they did that. They thought through ideas, and then they did skits, which were just hilarious about their ideas. One of them that springs to mind is they were sitting, I think it was this one, where they were talking about a dashboard. Every kid would have a dashboard. Geez. And they'd look at it each morning and decide what happened the day before or the week before, and they were kind of making jokes, Johnny, what do you see on your dashboard? And Johnny says, well, I see that our food waste went up by 25% yesterday. And I gotta tell you, I saw Timmy take 2 pieces of pizza and he only ate 1. And so they kind of kept going around and round, and they kept picking on this, Timmy guy. And but it was really cool to think about outside the box of what our schools could look like in the future. So that was really fun. They're still working on that, developing the ideas kind of down to a more user-friendly level. So we'll see what comes out of that. We're kind of right in the middle of it. So feel free to ask questions too. We're such a small group. I don't mind if you guys ask me anything. So I'm not going to take a whole hour up here, and I know I have an hour. So hopefully you'll have some questions. Okay, I'll talk about the Michigan Battle of the Buildings real quick. We call it a crusade against kilowatts, a barrage against BTUs, Michigan Battle of the Buildings. And really, it's a biggest loser style contest. So buildings sign up in January through March of each year is when they have to dedicate to the program. So we're signing up right now for 2016. And basically, it is the starting energy use on January 1st compared to the ending on December 31st. So it's all the energy in the building, what's being used, and the difference throughout the year. So during the year, the building contestants have the opportunity to attend local workshops, get recognized for their achievements, learn and network with each other. So one of the most important things about Battle is that we're actually learning from each other instead of having salesmen come and try to sell us anything. So my background is that I used to be an energy consultant, and I worked for a large mechanical contractor in Grand Rapids. And one of the things I noticed about the facility managers that I met with is that they seemed confused. Everyone was always trying to sell them the latest, greatest black box that was going to reduce their energy use, and they just didn't know where to turn. There was so many opportunities. They didn't know which thing they should start with, what made the largest impact. And so the Battle's a way that we can talk to each other here in our state, in our climate zone, and find out what's actually working at Van Andel Institute, what's working at Grand Rapids Community College, or better yet, what didn't work. So it's kind of cool. Let's see here. One of the things that they learn right away is how to benchmark your building. Does anyone know about Portfolio Manager and the EPA? Okay. So it's really the only way we have to tell how our buildings are running in regards to energy. We can do all the spreadsheets we want and look at our energy use, but to actually compare ourselves against other buildings that are within our climate zone, that's what this does. It's a free platform through the EPA, and if you've ever noticed, your Energy Star appliances, it's really that for buildings. So it's so simple to use. People can enter their building into the platform. A few main things like square footage, amount of occupants, what's your operating hours. Then you input your energy information. your electric use, your gas use, your steam use if you happen to be connected to steam, and outspits this EUI, which is an energy utilization index. So think of it as miles per gallon in a car. So if we were going to go out shopping for a new car today, we wanted something really gas efficient. How would we know what that is? How would we know what a fuel efficient vehicle is unless we had a benchmark that tells us bad cars are 10 and good cars are 40, 45 miles per gallon, right? So that's what this does. It runs all kind of custom reports so that building owners can better understand really how much money's sitting on the table. It encourages building owners to act just simply on the information itself. I had a customer once who thought they were doing really well in regards to energy. They'd done a few projects, and I offered to benchmark for them. We did that, and they got a score of 13. Now, the rating is 1 to 100, with 100 being the best. And when he saw that, he was kind of embarrassed, and I said, don't be embarrassed. This is opportunity, right? Look at all the money on the table. They were spending, I think, about $1.5 million in utilities. And if they were to improve the operation of their building, maybe do a few projects and get to 75, which is what the EPA considers to be a high-performing building, they could be saving, I think it was right around $400,000 a year in utilities. So what did that tell them? That told them that they had $400,000 laying on the table that they could dedicate to a project. And if they were, and then what we discussed was what's your tolerance of return on investment? And it was 5 years. So now we got 400,000 times 5, right? And I'm not doing the math exactly right here, but that puts what, 20-something, 400 to $2 million in. Okay, so I got my calculations off just a little bit, because actually that project ended up being a $1 million project that we did for them. Now, these guys were not thinking about doing a project at all. They had no intention of doing anything in their building until it broke. And by the end of it, we sold them a new chiller, which is air conditioning. We sold them a building management system and demand control ventilation. And those three things combined were, and I should have, if I went into the store, I should have got my calculations in my head, but I believe the savings was, so it was a $1 million project and they needed to save in 5 years, so $200,000 a year. So their payback in utilities was $200,000 a year, if I have that right. So basically, and they got a loan for the project, so nothing came out of their pocket. Immediately, they were saving $200,000 a year on utilities, and they were using that to make the payments on the loan, which was going to be paid back in 5 years, and the life of this project was going to be 15 or 20, hopefully longer if they take care of their equipment. So by the end of it, $1.3 million in their pocket, I believe it was. So, yeah. Yeah, so these workshops are open to anyone. Anyone can attend, and as a matter of fact, we have a student coming to the next one. This particular one is happening in Muskegon on February 25th, but I have one happening in Detroit on the 3rd. This slide's just a little bit old, but I have one on March 3rd happening at Wayne State, and I'm trying to remember the date of the other one. I just planned it last night. I believe it's March 11th or March 18th happening at Aquinas. So what's cool about this portfolio manager class and what we've evolved into is that we're actually doing the benchmarking at the class. So we started these out and we were kind of having a little instruction. People would come for half an hour, we'd tell them what to do, and they'd go home and forget. So now we're actually having them bring their bills and their information that they're going to need for portfolio manager. We're going to do it right then and there, and by the time they leave, their building's already benchmarked. They're already learning how to run reports. So we're pretty excited about this new format. Yeah. Now Chicago's doing, I think they're calling them benchmarking jams, so that USGBC over there is doing it too, but they have an effort throughout the city that all buildings must be benchmarked using portfolio manager. We don't have that, it's all voluntary, but yeah, just figuring out what works. And and really, there's online tutorials too. People don't have to come to a class, but it's just been a real challenge with Battle of the Buildings because people want to get involved, but they don't understand the benchmarking piece. So we've just kind of evolved into this. Want me to talk about PACE a little bit? Okay, I'm not really great at PACE, but I will. I'll fit that in, okay? So how do we celebrate? Why do people get involved in the Battle of the Buildings? So along with all of the workshops that we do throughout the year to get them engaged and get them saving energy, we host a energy summit on Earth Day, April 22nd. Last year was our first one. That was at Amway. This year it's at the JW Marriott. Speakers, exhibitors, you see here, we give awards for the biggest losers. So those are the buildings that lost the most energy last year or the prior year. It takes us a little time because of the data and waiting for bills and all of that. Even though the competition's January through December, we don't actually celebrate till April. So like right now, I am in crazy mode getting everybody's data in. Yesterday was the drop, well actually last Friday was the deadline and then I moved it to this Friday and so everybody's deadline was just yesterday and I'll be working on this all weekend trying to get everybody's numbers compiled to figure out who the biggest losers are. Then I hand it over to an engineering firm and they do a walkthrough on each one of the biggest losers just to ensure that the data that they submitted is accurate and that it's fair competition. So that was really the first year, super successful. That's Valerie Brader, our director of the Department of Energy with Michigan, speaking there. We got Amway, City of Grand Rapids, and Spectrum on a panel, and then again, exhibitor spaces. So we were really excited about the very first year and how well the conference went. We had about 200 attendees. So how did they do? The very first year, the 2014 competition year, they lost 1.149 metric tons of CO2e. That's equal to the carbon sequestered by 942 acres of U.S. forest in a year, or the greenhouse gas emissions from 2.7 million miles driven by the average passenger vehicle, and the CO2 emissions of 1.2 million pounds of coal burned. So we're pretty proud of them, and that was really just the beginning because this year I've already kind of seen some numbers and I can tell you we're going to blow the roof off of this with this year's biggest losers. So pretty exciting. Another thing that happens around the Battle of the Buildings is the local business journal, Grand Rapids Business Journal. They're our partners, and they do this as you can't read it, but they do a special supplement which includes a half-page article on every one of our biggest losers. So they get a lot of attention around the fact that they're being better stewards of energy. So another huge driver and reason that buildings get involved in this is to be recognized for the good work that they're doing. So there's a couple of last year's winners, and there's more winners because there's categories. So just to kind of recap, the 2015, we won the Governor's Energy Excellence Award for the Best Education Program. We found out that is the first ever statewide energy competition. And just to be transparent, this is not something brand new that we thought of. The EPA hosts a national competition each year. And they have been doing that for 5 years, I believe it is. And that's really where the idea came from. I had several customers that I was getting involved in the national competition. And I just saw where there was opportunity there to bring it down to a local level. So that project that I was talking about, I got them involved in the national competition. And at the end of the year, we ended up on a list of 5,500 other companies, and it just felt a little bit like anticlimactic, right? Like there's so much. So I thought, well, geez, if we brought this down to a local level and we had a local competition and we could offer education and help people, we could recognize people, and it worked. So in year one, 2014, we had 11.5 million square feet of buildings signed up for the battle, and that's what competed in year one. 2015, we right now it's actually over, but 28,500,000 square feet, nearly tripled our first year in 2014. We have 9 categories: multifamily, healthcare, entertainment, public buildings, office buildings, education. So we break the buildings up. Once they enter the competition, we ask them to tell us what type of building they are, and then we modify that slightly to get everybody into a group, and then other for kind of the randoms that don't fit into a good category. 2016, we have 40 million square feet signed up right now. So you can see we're growing, and our biggest month of signups happens at the last minute. In fact, last year on the last day, March 31st, I think I signed up like 5 million square feet on the very last day. So I don't think we're gonna have any problem doubling. Actually, I'm a little bit scared. It's hard to manage all of this, and so far it started out with just me, and now I have a part-time person, but we're talking as a board right now of expanding that again, and I think that we're going to end up hiring a full-time person very soon, because I just can't continue to manage the growth. So pretty exciting what that's happening. I'll quick just talk about PACE really fast, because I'm not sure where it fits into my presentation, but it fits in general. So PACE is the Property Assessed Clean Energy Initiative program. So what that is, and I'm just gonna say it in really plain English because I don't know how else to say it, but a property owner can take out a loan. In the past, if you wanted to do things like solar energy or wind, it was hard to get a loan, and it was hard to make the numbers work because the payback was much larger or much longer than, let's say, 5 years, 2 years, which is what most companies want to see. What PACE does is attaches your loan to your property taxes, and it enables you to get a loan for 20 years. So now all of a sudden your payments are low enough to make renewable energy make sense. Not only that, but it allows it for the loan to stay with the building. So if somebody decides that they're gonna move in 10 years or that they might move in 10 years, a company wouldn't have to take that loan with them like they traditionally would have. It stays with the property. The other benefit is it doesn't end up on the building owner's balance sheet, the company's balance sheet. So another huge barrier for company owners would be, I've got this $200,000 loan that I'm paying back, and that shows up on their balance sheet. And now with PACE, it wouldn't. I believe, and maybe you know, that we're at about 11 counties that have adopted that in Michigan now. It's pretty cool, and PACE actually will be speaking at the Energy Summit, and they spoke at last year's Energy Summit too. So we're definitely involved in bringing that education to them. And we're slightly involved in helping the adoption of PACE. We support it and sign all the letters, but actively we just don't have staff to be pushing it to the counties. But there's lots of groups that are working on that, and we're partnered with the groups. We're just not supplying people, unfortunately, but I'll sign whatever to try to get a county commissioner to adopt it. So I think that's about all with Battle. Does anyone have any questions with Battle? I'll move on to our next program. No. Mm-hmm.
But Michigan is one of the few states where
I can't answer that. I think so, the 11 Partners Group. Mm-hmm. Lean and Green Michigan.
Yeah,
Lean and Green Michigan is the name of his company.
yeah.
I think it's a company, not a nonprofit, which I think has been some of the battle with getting it adopted is political. So it's too bad. But anyway, so that's the Michigan Battle of the Buildings program, and I'll move on to one of our next exciting programs that we just launched in December, and that is the Grand Rapids 2030 District. So the 2030 District is really unique because it is run and headed up by property owners. So most programs that launch are something that someone else is trying to get them to do, you know, whether it's a nonprofit or the city or whoever trying to get everybody to do it. This is really unique in that the property owners, the property owners are the ones who are kind of driving the bus. So it gives them a little more power and makes them, you know, feel as though that this is. Well, not feel as though it is. They're in charge of what happens. So, what is the 2030 District? It is, instead of where we're competing against each other, building by building, it's a combined effort of buildings who have committed to reducing building energy use, water consumption, and the transportation of greenhouse gas emissions by 50% by the year of 2030. Luckily, we're using a 2003 baseline instead of today, because can you imagine? Even with the 2003 baseline, and I'll explain why we do the 2003 baseline. The EPA, back to portfolio manager again, that's their baseline. That's the number between 1 and 100, where we're all trying to figure out where we are. That's based on a 2003 baseline. Now they are working right now, and I think it's going to be upgraded to a 2010 baseline soon, but that's how much our information lags behind where we're actually at. So we're working from this 2003 baseline, which is still a lofty goal, a very lofty goal. So how do we do it? How does each building meet these goals? Again, a building owner in downtown Grand Rapids can sign on to this. That doesn't mean that they have to do this. They could do better, or they could do a little bit worse. As a group, as a district, we're trying to meet this combined goal of 50%. So, you know, these are just some of the ways that a building owner might reduce energy within their own building. Comparing our buildings, that's just benchmarking, setting your targets, and using district resources. So the 2030 Challenge is not something that Grand Rapids came up with. It's an organization that's, I guess you could call them global now, because we have a city in Canada that has adopted the 2030. So it's not just in the US anymore, but there are only 12 cities throughout the country that have adopted the 2030 Challenge. So I think I have a list coming up of who those are, but it's pretty exciting because it's like San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle. So it's pretty cool for Grand Rapids to be among those leaders and well-known sustainability leaders. So the 2030 gives us toolkits of how to meet our goals. Along with these toolkits, we also have the connection to the other 2030 districts. What are you doing? What's been working? What hasn't been working? I'm not going to lie, we don't know how we're going to do this yet. This 2030 district was formed to figure out how to do it. It's not that I or the USGBC has the answers and we're just going to sprinkle some magic dust and make it happen. As a district, we need to find those solutions. So this is our way of coming together and starting to put our thinking caps on of how we're going to meet these goals. We have partnerships through the 2030 network, whether free or reduced, different types of software. They're working on some collective buying power. So another great reason to be involved with the network is these tools, because a lot of cities have adopted challenges of different kinds, but being with the larger group, you know, gives us a little bit more, hopefully, some tools to work with. So it's kind of neat, the partnership and the way it works. So we have property owners and managers also committed to the district as service stakeholders. So they're the ones that would sell the products and install the products that could help these building owners save energy. And then we have community stakeholders, which are U.S. Green Building Council, West Michigan Sustainable Business Forum, City of Grand Rapids. So there's community partners within this group. We've all come together at the same table to speak the same language. And that's really what this is about, is us sitting down, getting on the same page, and figuring this out. DTE, which is our major gas supplier here, and electric in the east side of the state, and Consumers Energy, which is our major utility provider, our electric provider, they provide gas, they're at this table too. I don't think this is going to be done by building owners alone. I think there's going to be community solar projects, and I don't even know, things that I can't think of yet, that are going to come out of this to find the solution for the city of Grand Rapids. And how cool is it that the building owners are sitting down with the utility providers and the service providers at the same table and working on the solution?
Is there a list of all the companies that are involved?
Yep, it's on our website. I'll give you that here in a second. So just to give you an idea, just some of the other districts that are LA, San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Seattle, there's 7 more. This is kind of the overall, 232 million square feet. I think there's actually 241 now.
Sherry, we're the only ones in Michigan.
Yes.
Has Ann Arbor come online yet?
Nope. So it's kind of fun because we're always competing with the southeast side of the state, right? So Detroit and Ann Arbor. Did I do something? Battery. I think that's its problem. Okay. There is an Amber Alert going on right now. I was kind of impressed because it was on a billboard right downtown Grand Rapids on my way in on 131. They had a LED billboard announcing it. Do you want it? Maybe it's fine. Okay. Okay, so that's what we are as a network. Oh, I was talking about Detroit and Ann Arbor. So Detroit and Ann Arbor, to be a 2030 district, first you emerge, right? You get the idea, you declare yourself an emerging district, and then you work towards launch and an official district. So Grand Rapids, or Detroit and Ann Arbor have been emerging, I think, for about 2 years now. They're working towards launch. And Grand Rapids announced emerging in March, and we launched in December. So we worked really fast, excuse me, and really hard, and I think that speaks a lot to our leaders here in West Michigan. It also speaks a lot about the Wege Foundation because they supported us financially, and that's been one of the challenges for the other districts is finding financial support. So it's pretty exciting that we were able to get to this point so quickly, and we're very proud, and here's our numbers. So on December 11th, we had 39 founding members, and we launched with 9.9 million square feet in downtown Grand Rapids. So pretty cool. Right now, we have a district leadership council, which is actually operating under the U.S. Green Building Council. This started as an effort of 3 nonprofits working together to get to launch. And then once we got to that point, we had the founding members vote where this should be housed, and it was voted to be housed with us at the USGBC. I think one of the main reasons that happened was because of Battle, and there's a lot of synergies with the 2 programs, so it made a lot of sense that we would house it. And then those members voted on that district leadership council, so there's 11 members of the district leadership council. Where we're at right now, so we launched in December. In January, we had our first meeting, and now it's February, and our next meeting is Monday. That's actually a strategic planning session. So what we kind of found out when we got into this meeting, that we had a lot of high-level people, very smart people, and everybody was kind of going in a different direction, right? We've got a lot to tackle. We got energy, we got water, and we got transportation, and we don't have a clue yet how we're going to tackle that. So we have a lot of partnerships to forge with other nonprofits that are already doing work. We need to discover what type of work they're doing. We have a lot of tools and resources we need to investigate. I don't know what it'll grow into. You know? I don't think any of us really know what it'll grow into. So far, the District Leadership Council is voluntary. most of it. In fact, there was rules on how the District Leadership Council would be formed, and it had to be 40% building owners, I believe. So a lot of our District Leadership Council is the property owners. And then a couple of service providers and a couple nonprofits. So right now those people are not being paid. But one of the things that I've noticed that's been really exciting is noticing the building owners and the people on the District Leadership Council, and even the larger group, throwing their resources at making this happen. So we said, for instance, in the January meeting, I came in there and I said, we need a strategic plan. We need to put this together. We need to be very deliberate about how we accomplish this, or we'll lose people really fast. I've been working in nonprofit just a couple years, but one thing I've noticed is if you have a group that really isn't focused and doesn't know what it's doing, you lose people. They stop coming and you don't get them back. So I wanted to make sure that we were doing very deliberate work and we knew what we were doing. So immediately Spectrum says, hey, we have facilitators. We can probably, donate facilitation to you, and boom, it's already happening. They've not only decided to lead us through the first session, but they're gonna stay with us for as long as it takes to develop our strategic plan, our tactics, everything. I wanted to do little stickers for windows that people could put in downtown Grand Rapids. Immediately, Veolia, who's our Steam Energy, says, we'll pay for all the stickers, we'll get those printed, we'll have them for you next week. So it's just, people are just willing to help and wanting to help. So I haven't noticed that with a lot of other initiatives that people jump on so easily. So it's really exciting. I'm really excited to see how this works and what we might be capable of. So that's the website where you can find out more. So we have a chapter website, a 2030 website, and a Michigan Battle of the Buildings website. So it's a lot to manage. You can see why I'm thinking a little bit. Let's see here, what else have I got? We're social, obviously. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, and that's our website for our chapter. And I just encourage you, if you're from Michigan, to get involved with our chapter, yeah. And I don't know what states you're all from, but I do know that Detroit, who is launching the 2030 district, and they have received some funding just recently, so things are really gearing up and they're getting ready to launch. They're engaging students at Wayne State to do all their baseline benchmarking. So where we did it, I actually did it, they're having the students do it over there. We're looking at ways too to involve students here in our city with the 2030 district. So, if you're in a state that has a 2030 district, I think there's definitely opportunities there. Yes? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel that way too. Yeah, so right now, really I work out of my house, so I don't even have an office. This is really, when I took over the chapter in 2014, we were suffering a little bit. We didn't have a lot of programs going on. So it's really just catapulted over the last 2 years. And so there's a lot of things in my mind about where we're going next. So right now, what I have is me full-time, and my daughter, who goes to GVSU, I employed her as an intern the first year, and so she works with me. And then she, after the internship, she came to work for me. So she's still working for me, but she graduates in April. And she's gonna go on and pursue her own dreams, even though I'm trying to convince her that this is her dream. But this is my dream. So she's gonna go do her thing, and I'll be looking for somebody to take her position. So my plans right now, although we're still talking about it as a chapter, my personal plans is that we will likely do an intern to take her position, which is mostly the management of the websites and things like that. But she also gets involved in all the programs, obviously goes to meetings. And then I will hire a full-time program manager that can be me when I'm not there. So maybe they'd be here speaking today. So kind of the higher level. So that's my plan. We'll see what the board decides, but I think that's probably the way it will go. So there's that opportunity, and you know, I just say if you're in a state that doesn't have something like this going on yet, get it going on. How do programs start? They start with one energetic person who has an idea and refuses to give up and just keeps on pushing and pushing. And I was just a chapter member. That's what I did. And then I just had this idea, and I told the board of directors, I have this idea. And they're like, well, whatever. If you want to try it, try it. And that was battle. And I did. And here we are. And then from there, 2030, it just keeps going. So, yeah. The neat thing about being involved in a nonprofit such as the U.S. Green Building Council is that that is your jump-off point to do something cool, to create a program. That's what the chapters are all about, is to give people the opportunity to create programs. I mean, she talked a little bit about my bio. The first thing I did and I'll just go back to how I even got involved in the USGBC was I was a salesman for HVAC, heating and cooling, and one day the boss took all us salesmen in there and he said, I want y'all to go get involved in the community. Everybody go join a group. So I tried a couple of different groups, and I just kind of felt like a square peg in a round hole, and it was like, okay, I don't know. And then I don't know how I stumbled on the U.S. Green Building Council, but I went into that meeting, and the very first day, I knew. It was like, wow, these people care about, and I didn't even know anything about sustainability at the time, but something spoke to me, and I just started going to their meetings and getting involved, and then I started the Lead for Existing Buildings advocacy group because there wasn't one going. And it's like, well, geez, don't people need to know how to get LEED for existing buildings? Like, don't they need to understand that this program's out there? So I just started a roundtable lunch and learn discussion once a month. And then that's just catapulted into just program after program after program that has been started. So anyone can do it. So I think that's it. So thank you.